So let me tell you why people in Silicon Valley believe in a borderless world. They believe in a borderless world because they believe there will be no nation states in the end. That we won't identify as Americans or Chinese. We will all just be humans sharing everything and really forced to share. And we will be on our best behavior because Daddy or Big Brother will be watching over us at all times. This sounds like science fiction, but I promise you it is not, and I urge you, I can give you, if you're interested, just write to me. I will give you books that you can read from the experts. I am a flawed individual with a decent brain to be able to understand the entry-level stuff. I can't tell you how it all works, but I can. I have done study on this since the 1990s, and the time is here. The time is now. The next 10 years, you will not recognize anything in 10 years. There is a white paper out now from Penn State, a professor there. If you want to understand why everybody in Silicon Valley is for socialism, here's why. Now remember, they don't believe in nation states. They don't believe in borders. Why would they be for a big oppressive country? Because they need the data. Now listen. Professor Larry Backer of Penn State University has issued a paper, 2018, that resistance to social credit systems in the West could be dissolved when the masses are socialized as a collective. First of all, Pat, can you explain what a social credit system is, as we know in China?
Yeah, it's well, if you're acting a certain way that the state wants you to act, you get points towards being allowed to do certain things. If you don't act a certain way, things are taken from you. Privileges go away.
They don't have to
like
put
mass transit, transit at all, moving around, all of those things.
They say pridefully that they don't ever have to take anybody off the street or put them in prison. If their social credit score is so low, they won't be willing to leave their house. So they'll have no desire to leave their house because it's so hostile outside of their home. Now, he says, the great culture management machinery of Western society needs to develop a narrative in which such activity as a social credit system is naturalized within the Western culture. He's a prominent law professor, Larry Backer of Penn State. And in this paper, he talks about ways in which the social credit system could be implemented in the West. He writes that a shift in the law with this system will, quote, change the focus of public law from constitution and rule of law to analytics and algorithms. The paper, you can find it yourself, is titled Next Generation Law, Data-Driven Governance and Accountability-Based Regulatory Systems in the West and Social Credit Regimes in China. He says right now the move to a social credit here in America is fractured, but he says, I can help. Here's what you have to do. You have to use the great cultural management machinery to normalize the idea of sharing private data and social credit. He says, quoting, it is possible to socialize the masses or even mass democracy as a collective to embrace this pattern of data disclosure beyond the immediately self-serving closed-loop systems. So in other words, he's saying, how can we get people to willingly give up every bit of privacy that they have and give us the way they even think? Would it be possible for a state to develop systems for the enforcement of laws, criminal and regulatory, that depend on intelligence by inducing the masses to serve as positive contributors of data necessary for enforcement or regulation? So in other words, change our entire system to what you think you will become. What you're thinking is important, because then we can use criminal and regulatory laws against you or against the bad guys who are thinking bad thoughts. He says the answer in Western liberal democracies may depend on the ability of the great cultural management machinery of the Western society, its television, movies, and other related media, to develop a narrative in which such activity is naturalized within Western culture. As big tech and artificial intelligence creeps further into our lives, a grid of high-tech surveillance has entangled us already. The systems Google Home, Apple Watches, Amazon Alexa offer convenience in the form of targeted ads, personalized content, and other features. This system is meant to determine whether or not you'll be allowed to function in modern society at the end game. For instance, the Trump administration, we've told you this, is considering using surveillance grids to monitor the population for signs of mental illness, triggering authorities to confiscate firearms from dangerous individuals. In 2013, Old Thinker News asked the question, will insurance companies use smart appliances to monitor unhealthy habits? We've talked about this for years. Yes, the answer is yes, of course. Wall Street Journal stated, they already know whether you've been taking your meds, getting your teeth cleaned, or going to regular medical checkups. Now some employers or their insurance companies are tracking what staffers eat, where they shop, and how much weight they're putting on, and taking action to keep them in line. Artificial intelligence, programmed by power-hungry individuals, is taking over our society. It is already censoring political opinions. It will be making medical, educational, and financial decisions. Humans are to be sidelined. The social credit system will be watching you closely for any deviant behavior. And if you're not careful, you will become an outcast like in China. And access to food, transportation, and medical care will be denied.
That's amazing. Access to food. Sorry, you can't have food. You can't be buying food. You're just not behaving. You can't have any food. Oh, okay. Well, that's just a death sentence. That's not that bad.
They're doing that. They're doing that to the Muslims in China right now. The Uyghurs. They're doing that to the Uyghurs right now in China. And people like Google want to help them. Facebook wants to help them. And the reason why they want it is because they want access to all of that data. They are so data-driven right now because data on every human being on Earth helps them create artificial intelligence, artificial general or super intelligence.
They'll also be helping to run the show, too. So, because it'll be their algorithms that are being used. So
Correct.
They're going to be running the show.
Correct.
With the U.S. government or whatever government it is worldwide. And they're already doing that with China right now, as you mentioned. They're already doing it.
Yes. And so now in the United States, we've been warning you that the Constitution is on the ropes. I've never believed in things like Blade Runner, where it was the corporation that was coming for you.
Yeah, I didn't either until now.
But it's happening.
You can see how that happens.
And beyond anything that we've ever seen in our lifetime, and we have a beginning understanding of this, you can now see how the book of Revelation, when it talks about the mark of the beast, how that happens. And I remember as a kid, wait a minute, there's no place to go, no place to run, no place to hide. You are told what you can eat, what you can't eat, how you live. You can't spend money. You can't go anywhere. How's that possible? We now see it.